Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi has succeeded in making idol worship number one media issue and popular issue for the new year of 2024. He is inaugurating the idol of Lord Rama in the new Ram Mandir, which is being constructed in the town of Ayodhya. I have written a letter to the Prime Minister and sent it to him. So I will not read the letter because you can read it on my website, revelationmovement.com. But I want to summarize for the nation of India and the Hindus all over the world why the founding fathers of modern India did not encourage or promote worship of man-made gods and goddesses or mythical gods and goddesses. They adopted Rabindranath Tagore's song Jan Gan Man Adhinayak Jai Hai as the national anthem, and this national anthem encourages India to pray to God who created India, who loves India, who wants to bless India. Tagore called him the dispenser of the destiny of India. He's the one to be worshipped. He's the one to whom we should pray. But the Hindutva movement, now led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is demanding that we worship gods which are part of sectarian gods that are mythical, that are made by human beings. And the reason our founding fathers did not encourage worship of mythical gods and goddesses are many. One of them is that they wanted India to develop scientific temper. This is part of the constitution in India, that India, the new India, the modern India, the independent India, if it has to progress, it must develop scientific temper, which among other things means that we must be a people who seek truth, who believe what is truth, because truth liberates. This was an essential point that Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, the founder of Banaras Hindu University, who was president of the Congress Party a few times, when he proposed that the national motto of India should be Satyamev Jayate, truth alone triumphs. He wanted us to believe not myths, but seek truth and believe what is true. Why is this important? Because myths enslaves. You can entertain people through myth, and that's fine. You can impart some wisdom, you can impart some social values, but overall, myths enslave because whoever makes your gods, he or she has to also make your ethics, your values by which you live. And if I'm creating your gods, then I would want you to believe the values and live by the values which I teach, such as that I'm higher than you are, higher caste, you must sit at my feet, you must worship me, etc. These would be the values that I will teach. So whoever makes your gods has to make your ethics, the moral laws which govern you. And that mythology becomes a factor that enslaves. Before Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, it was in the 19th century, it was Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, and Mahatma Gandhi gave him the designation of Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, the first social reformer from the low caste in India, who saw Indian culture, he called it slavery, and truth. He called his organization or movement Satya Shodhak Samaj, a society that seeks truth. Satya Shodhak Samaj, because it is truth that liberates. That's the basis for science, that we must not believe what we have been taught or told, but we must observe what is real, what is true, try and interpret it mathematically, logically, scientifically, even if it is counterintuitive, and believe what is true, because that would liberate us. So this was a whole movement that India had received, beginning with Mahatma Jyotiba Phule. Of course, he learned it from the Bible, but he taught it, and many people began to follow him, not just the lower caste, but even the upper caste. And that was the background of Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya urging the Congress Party first and then the nation to become a culture that doesn't seek myths and believe in truth, myths, but seeks truth and believes in truth. Now, the problem with what our Prime Minister and the Hindutva movement is doing in building the Ram Mandir in Ayodhya, not that Hindus should not build Ram Mandir, but for the government to be officially, both the central government in Delhi and UP government in Lucknow, for the government agencies to be actively using the media, using political mobilization to promote visits to this temple and worship idols. The problem with that is that if the temples which are teaching religion, so religion is a way of life. Religions are different, and therefore people have different ways of lives. If the temple becomes the source of teaching mythology, then the whole culture is based on that worldview. The truth does not matter. You can make up your own truth. So if the temple is promoting myths, why shouldn't businessmen have fake account books to cheat on taxes, to not show what their real income is? Why shouldn't auditors certify accounts as valid, which they know are in fact fake? What happens to the police? It was one of our finest writers of the 20th century, Neeraj Babu, who argued that the corruption of the police in India is really taken from the temples, the environment, the social climate of the police station, where the police officers are inventing fake court cases to harass innocent citizens, to extract bribes, or to throw innocent citizens in prison because the ruling politicians are putting pressure on the police to harass and arrest and persecute their political opponents, or now increasingly religious opponents, Muslims and Christians. They're being persecuted by the police because police also believe in myth. That's our way of life. If the temple is teaching mythical gods and goddesses, why can't the police fabricate false court cases? Same applies to the court. The India is no longer able to trust the judicial system, the judges, which we inherited from the British, because the witnesses took oath that I will tell nothing but the truth, the whole truth, and only the truth. That I will testify, I will not tell stories, I will not tell myths. So the entire legal system was built on the command that you shall not bear false witness. If the temples are bearing false witness that this statue is God, then why shouldn't witnesses tell stories and myths in a court? And if they do, coached by their lawyers, then the whole justice system collapses into a mockery that we cannot trust. And when we cannot trust the judicial system to do justice, then people begin to take revenge. They take the matter of justice in their own hands and take their own revenge, because they know that if the opponent is politically powerful, financially powerful, if he can bribe, then we will not get justice. So truth liberates, myths enslave, and therefore the religion should be pursuit of truth. We must seek truth, we must believe truth, and not invent what we call truth. We can make stories, we should make stories, tell good stories, but it should be clear that what is mythology is not truth. Truth is necessary to know how the universe actually works, and to that knowledge becomes the foundation for development of technology that liberates us from the drudgery of toil, which is part of the curse upon human beings, human sin. So the reason we must not make images of God, whether of gold or silver or bronze or iron or metal or wood or stones, the reason why we are commanded not to make the images of God is because God is a spirit. He does not have physical form or shape. Therefore, every attempt to make an image of God is necessarily creating false gods. The other reason why God commands us not to make images of God is because God has himself made his image, which is your neighbor. The problem of myth-based religion is that our religion teaches us that we should despise our neighbor as a low caste, as an untouchable, not honor him as God's image. Now you can retaliate and you can say, well, it's fine for you to say this. If you knew how terrible my neighbor is, you wouldn't say that my neighbor is God's image. Well, you're right. Your neighbor may become sinful, a distorted image of God, a disfigured image of God. That is why God incarnated as human being. He became the invisible image, the visible image of the invisible God. If we want to love God's image, serve God's image, then it is our neighbor who should be loved and served. This is why the greatest commandments, said Jesus, are that you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, all your strength, and also love your neighbor as yourself, not despise him. Now, you see the problem of myth making and idol worship, that as the Prime Minister Modi ji had announced and planned that he will be the guest of honor in inauguration of this temple, the Pran Pratishthan of the idol of God Rama in the temple in Ayodhya, the Brahman gurus, Shankaracharyas and others objected. They raised many points. There were technical points that the temple is not complete. You cannot do the Pran Pratishthan in an unfinished temple, or that when a married king is performing an important ritual, it is important for him to have his wife. Now, Narendra Modi ji had abandoned his wife without divorcing her. So he's married, he's never divorced his wife, but his wife cannot live with him, cannot sit with him, because this is part of our culture. A brahmacharya, renouncing your marriage in order to become Brahma. Now, this is the problem of man-made ethics. Those who make your God have to make your ethical standards as well. So the Hindu leaders, such as the archbishops of Hinduism, such as the Shankaracharyas, they were objecting that Modi ji cannot install the statue unless he sits with his wife there, because this is what the kings, the political rulers, used to do. And the reason why Modi ji, like Mahatma Gandhi, just abandoned their wives without divorcing them is because in the Hindu culture that Modi ji is trying to establish in India, wife is a property of the husband. A husband can abandon his property, he can give her away, he can gamble her away as the Pandavas did, and God Rama himself, when his wife Sita is pregnant with two twin boys, he just abandons her, not divorces her. And this is what Modi ji has done. So he is a follower of a culture that is represented by Ram. Now, this was the culture that modern India tried to change through the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955. That wife has the same dignity of being made in God's image as husband has. She's not her husband's property, and therefore, if in unfortunate situations where a wife has to be divorced, then the wife must be given a proper legal divorce, not just abandoned. But do we want a culture which builds the dignity and the rights of women and wives, or do we want to go back to Hindu culture or cultural nationalism, as the Hindutva movement will call it, where a wife is a property of her husband. The other illustration which has hit Prime Minister Modi ji himself in the last 1 week is that these Hindu gurus, Shankaracharyas, they have been saying that the real reason why Modi ji cannot be allowed to be the chief guest as this at the ritual or yajna of installing the statue of God Rama is that he is a backward caste. He is not a Brahmin. This is a ritual which can only be performed by Brahmins who are by birth and by training prepared for this meritorious religious ritual. Now, this is the trouble with the entire Hindutva movement. When you are trying to bring Hindu culture, cultural nationalism into India, you have to bring Sanatan Dharma, which is a social system, a hierarchical social system where Brahmins are on top, backward castes are the feet, and then you have the outcasts. It's a hierarchical system where people are not equal. If people were equal, then of course Modi ji can be the guest of honor, performing the ritual of Pran Pratishthan, of bringing life into an idol through the magic of the religious rituals. But Sanatan Dharma, which is the new name, it's a Buddhist term which is being now used for Hinduism, does not believe in human equality. And sufficient pressure has been put during the last 3-4 days upon the Prime Minister that he has now withdrawn the idea that he will be the guest of honor. He's accepted that he's not equal to the Brahmins. Now, this is very unfortunate. Do we want an India which believes in human equality? The idea of human equality, that all human beings are made in God's image, even if they have become terrible sinners, the fact that they chose made a free choice to commit sin is a reflection that they are made in the image of the Creator. That's why they are free to love their Creator, serve their Creator, or disobey and disregard their Creator. So do we want to build a culture as the modern India and the Constitution of India was attempting to do, to build a culture based on the belief of human equality, or do we want a cultural nationalism which revives a culture of inequality? And just this week, the Prime Minister of India, who has been trying to revive Hindu culture of Sanatan Dharma, has been put in his place that you are not equal to the Brahmins. Therefore, you cannot do what you are spending these millions and billions of rupees to do to inaugurate this temple. So the fact that if you allow some men, to make your gods and invent myths around their God, whoever creates your God will create your ethical laws and values, and those ethical values will actually hurt you, will hurt the nation. So this hierarchical, unequal system, which did not believe in human equality, weakened India. And that is why India was colonized for 700 years by Islamic rulers, and for almost 200-300 years by British rulers, European rulers, because India had been weakened, divided and weakened. And that's the ethical system that is inherent in what the idea of Hindu nationalism that our government is spending these billions of rupees, crores of rupees to impose upon India. And this is an important time for our nation to choose whether we want to go back to a culture that is based on myths, that believes and worships man-made gods, or whether we are going to be a modern nation that prays to the God who created India, the dispenser of India's destiny, as this Bharat Bhagya Vidhata, as Rabindranath Tagore wrote, and as we sing in our national anthem. Thank you for listening. May God Himself save India from repeating the mistakes that we have made for thousands of years mistakes that weakened us and enslaved us. God bless you. God bless India. God bless the Prime Minister of India. Thank you.